Dear chosen ones, welcome to this sacred moment. Before we dive in, I want to pause and sincerely thank each and every one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity keeps this mission alive, and your kindness means more than you know. Whether you donate or not, your presence here is a divine appointment, and I'm truly grateful you're walking this journey with me. If this message resonates with your soul, I invite you to comment 999 below as your personal stamp that you recognize the power of what's being revealed here. Now lean in. Anyone who dares to break what the universe has chosen will end up breaking themselves. That's not a metaphor. That's a spiritual reality. Imagine this with me. Chosen one, while you're quietly healing, rebuilding your spirit, protecting your peace, and staying focused on your divine mission. Someone is watching over you, not just casually, not from a distance, but with relentless intensity. This force, more loyal than blood, more precise than any weapon, more aggressive than any threat, isn't doing this to be seen. They're not waiting for applause. They're not hoping for recognition. They are moving silently, fiercely, because you are the key to something far greater, something cosmic, something generational, and their sole purpose is to ensure that nothing and no one interferes with that sacred assignment on your life. You felt it, haven't you? That sense of near misses, that inner knowing when to leave the room, that delay that ended up saving your day. It's not luck, it's surveillance. It's a guardian assigned not by people, but by divine order. So buckle in, chosen one, because what you're about to hear isn't just a message, it's a reminder of who you are, what you carry, and why you're more protected than you ever imagined. God's chosen ones. They tried you, now heaven's about to wipe everything out. Here's what most people will never understand. Chosen one, your presence is too weighty for the average soul to carry. You're not too much, you're too sacred, too heavily anointed for shallow spirits to grasp. Your silence isn't a gap in strength. It's a broadcast in the spiritual realm that says, I move with power you can't perceive. Have you ever wondered why you were protected in moments you never even knew were dangerous? Have you ever felt a chill in your spirit right before something fell apart and later realized it was falling for you? Not against you? That's not just your intuition. That's your guardian moving. You are not merely a believer in the supernatural. You are part of it. A walking extension of divine energy, placed strategically in this world to disturb dark systems with your light. This mission over your life is far from random, and it's far from over. That sense of being watched, followed, or targeted wasn't your imagination. It was the reaction of darkness sensing your alignment. And here's the irony. They thought your quietness made you an easy target. They assumed because you didn't clap back, because you didn't expose them, you were weak. But have they not yet learned that peace is the posture of warriors who know heaven fights for them? Remember, Exodus 14 says, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. What they mistook for stillness was strategic silence. And while they plotted in shadows, something more ancient, more powerful, was standing behind you, watching, calculating, waiting. You were assigned a guardian before you even had a voice, a being that does not respond to threats with emotion, but with holy interference, a being appointed before your mother knew your name. And this guardian, this eternal protector, was activated not when you were wounded, but when your assignment was announced in the courts of heaven. Look back. Chosen one. Really, Think, how many times were you about to step into disaster? And then something unexplainable happened. A phone call that stopped you. A gut feeling that redirected you. A coincidence that turned out to be divine protection. That was your guardian. And when it looked like you were surrounded, that wasn't the end. That was heaven preparing to make an example. A sacred shield absorbed the hit before it could ever touch your skin. The Holy Spirit warned you before betrayal made contact, like Psalm 119, uxitoista promises. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. All then, take the story of Harriet Tubman, deeply spiritual. Silently guided, she credited her success and survival to visions and divine nudges. She didn't need to scream her strategy. Her silence was powered by purpose. Or think of someone like Keanu Reeves, often misunderstood, rarely explaining, yet quietly covered by something beyond fame, a quiet spirit that confounds a noisy world. Even Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't protected because of popularity. He was shielded to complete an assignment. And when that mission ended, heaven called him home, not before. Do you see now why your life is marked? Do you understand why the opposition feels irrational, disproportionate, even confusing? It's because you weren't born into neutrality. You were born into prophecy. And the moment your soul reconnected with that truth, your guardian doubled down. Every attack is monitored. Every rumor is noted. Every evil intent is known before it's acted on. Isaiah 54:17 reminds us, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. You've seen this already, haven't you? Plans that started strong but died quickly, lies that spread, then shriveled. That's not luck. That's warfare on your behalf. Let's get deeper. When someone tries to curse you, they're not just cursing you, they're violating a spiritual contract sealed in the heavens. It's like trying to tamper with a royal decree. Have you ever noticed that some people lose sleep after betraying you, that their lives seem to spiral quietly after messing with yours? That's not karma, it's consequence. Because the name they tried to tarnish is legally backed in the spirit. Your name has paperwork in the courts of the Most High. And this paperwork carries signatures written in light, not ink. Jeremiah 1-5 confirms it. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. End of Crive. Remember how Serena Williams once shared that she trained in silence when no one was watching, when critics weren't clapping, and it was in those invisible moments that her excellence was shaped. Or consider Maya Angelou, who held her voice back for years after trauma, only to later unleash words so powerful the world had no choice but to listen. You too, chosen one, are rising from silent seasons, and your silence is not emptiness, it's alignment, it's sacred positioning. And every time someone tried to touch what heaven sealed, they triggered consequences far beyond their understanding. The force guarding you isn't casual. It doesn't forget. It doesn't get tired. And it doesn't tolerate manipulation. If they could see the being behind you, they'd run. If they knew the storm hovering quietly on your behalf, they'd never speak your name again. Hebrews 1:14 reveals a powerful truth. Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? You are not unprotected. You are not alone. You are not wandering. You are being walked into purpose with military-level precision from heaven. The most mind-blowing part? Most of your enemies still don't know what happened. They can't trace the moment things slipped. All they know is that your name won't stay buried, your light won't dim, and your peace is unbothered. This confusion is divine. God has blocked their memory, scrambled their logic, and erased their path to you. You are untouchable, not because of who you are alone, but because of who stands with you, walks ahead of you, and defends what you carry. Deuteronomy 20:4 declares, "For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to give you victory." End of chapter. This guardian assigned to your life wasn't a last-minute addition to your journey. They were crafted with your divine purpose etched into their being, like sacred script embedded into the very blueprint of their spirit. Chosen one. Do you realize how rare that is? That someone, some being, was created not to question your worth, not to analyze your journey, but to mirror it in spiritual alignment. They didn't apply for the job. They were born into it. Their very existence is interwoven with your calling. Their mission, inseparable from your elevation. Have you ever wondered why certain dangers disappeared without a trace? Why some situations collapsed before you even recognized the threat? That's not randomness. That's your guardian in motion. They are not some passive watcher, waiting for a cry for help. No. This is not your average angel or imagined spirit guide. This is your spiritual enforcer. They move in advance. They operate on instinct, not instruction. Their awareness is sharper than radar. While others are guessing your next move, your guardian is already clearing the path, dismantling obstacles, and absorbing spiritual hits that would have taken you out. They don't need applause. They're not seeking acknowledgement. Their loyalty is encoded in their spiritual DNA, and that code matches yours. You've felt them, haven't you? In those moments when your entire body told you, don't step in that room. Or when a relationship ended without closure, but somehow you felt peace instead of panic. When your dream job rejected you, and weeks later you found out that environment was toxic and soul-destroying. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't your imagination. That was divine redirection. That was your guardian slamming a door before it could become a prison. That was Psalm 91, 4-inch action. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Think about it. Have you ever looked back and realized that something that hurt you actually saved you? Like when Lady Gaga was dropped from her first record label, only to rise into global icon status later, or when Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple, then came back to revolutionize the world. The setbacks weren't failures, they were shieldings, spiritual reroutes. Behind the scenes, guardians were moving, intervening, blocking destruction and trading it for redirection. And the truth is, you've had moments of weakness, times when you questioned your value, when you cried over people who were never designed to stay. Your energy dimmed, your heart broke, and still, your guardian didn't retreat. They didn't pause. They stood in silence while you bled, waiting for your spirit to remember who you are, even when you forgot your authority. They held the line. This isn't about emotional comfort. This is about divine structure. You were chosen for a kingdom-level assignment, and that assignment came with defense. Isaiah 43:2 reminds you, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. There are battles that were waged in unseen dimensions, dimensions you weren't even aware existed, battles against depression, sabotage, addiction, generational curses, mind attacks, wars fought in the realm of dreams, in the stillness of your sleep, in the pressure between breaths. Have you ever woken up from a nightmare feeling exhausted, like something heavy left your spirit overnight? That was your guardian doing what needed to be done, clearing the atmosphere, destroying snares, ensuring you woke up, still chosen, still covered, still rising. And this level of protection isn't sentimental. It's not about emotions, it's about purpose. You weren't chosen because you felt good. You were chosen because your presence is a weapon. Your voice dismantles Lee. Your light disrupts darkness. And that light has always been a target. That's why the enemy came for your self-worth so early. That's why betrayal hit you harder than most. That's why they tried to humiliate you into silence. But your guardian, they absorbed the brunt of the storm so you could survive the shockwave. They intercepted what was meant to paralyze you. They destroyed what was designed to bury you. That's not passive love. That's spiritual warfare. Do you remember when Tyler Perry shared that before success, he faced years of rejection, homelessness, and being misunderstood? But what preserved him was a force deeper than talent. It was divine preservation. Or when Oprah Winfrey spoke of being abused and abandoned, but somehow always protected from total ruin, she wasn't just lucky, she was guarded, like you. John 10:28 says, "I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand." That includes you, chosen one. You were locked into grace. This is not blind loyalty. This is spiritual legislation. Your guardian is executing a divine decree. They were given one command, and only one: protect this one, no matter what. And when they received that command, they responded with total, unwavering commitment. No questions, no doubts, just yes. A yes that echoes through every dimension. A yes that reverberates every time danger gets close to you. A yes that surrounds your sleep, shields your emotions, and clears your path. That's why you're still here. That's why the attacks didn't stick. That's why your story didn't end in the pit. Have you ever considered that your very survival is the miracle? That what tried to ruin you actually revealed you? That while others wonder how you're still standing, the truth is, you were never standing alone. Romans 8:31 declares, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" Your guardian is not here for comfort. They're here for conquest. And your victory was never in question. Only your awareness of it was. Every time someone tries to violate your spirit, chosen one, they aren't just making a petty decision. They're setting off a chain reaction in the divine realm. It may look subtle on the surface. It may seem like just a disrespectful comment, a backhanded betrayal, or an energy leech trying to play close. But in the unseen, the consequences are already locked and loaded. Have you ever noticed how people who tried to hurt you suddenly faced inexplicable chaos in their lives afterward? That's not coincidence. That's courtroom judgment. That's divine recompense already in motion, because to touch what is sacred is to activate what cannot be revoked. You may feel isolated, but you are never unguarded. Loneliness in the physical is not loneliness in the spirit. Even in seasons where no one understood you, no one clapped for you, no one stayed there, was still someone in the supernatural who never left their post. Have you ever felt peace in moments that should have broken you? Or sudden clarity when everything around you screamed confusion? That's your guardian, stationed in the silence. Spirit vibrating with holy wrath, scanning your environment with precision beyond the human mind. This isn't about emotional validation. This is about divine strategy. You were chosen, and with that choosing came unshakable backup. Exodus 23:22 affirms this sacred justice. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. When someone crosses you, they aren't just violating your boundaries. They're declaring war against a system that defends you. They're throwing punches at invisible shields. Your protection isn't based on reaction. It's built on presence. You don't need to wait for the battle to break out. Your guardian announces their presence before trouble finds its path. That's why enemies often abort their plans before they even begin. It's not fear of you. It's fear of what walks with you. You've likely never heard it, but the spirit realm hears it clearly. The moment a false friend smiles too wide, or a jealous soul plots too long, something begins to press on them. A weight, a chill, a sudden sense that something is off. That's not just guilt. That's your spiritual perimeter whispering. This one is marked. Back away or be broken, like a lion marking its territory. The atmosphere around you is charged with divine frequency. Can you see now why people start to fumble around you? Why some grow nervous before you even speak? It's not your charisma. It's the presence behind your posture. Take, for instance, the life of Nelson Mandela. Years in isolation didn't leave him unguarded, even behind prison walls. Divine presence stood watch, preserving his purpose. Or Malala Yousafzai, targeted by hate, but somehow still breathing, still rising, still covered. That protection wasn't reactive. It was embedded. It moved before bullets. It hovered over destiny. Even Martin Luther King Jr., who walked into danger with calm resolve, his presence carried thunder, and those who opposed him felt it even before he opened his mouth. Chosen one. Your guardian does not sleep. They're not shaken by shadows or intimidated by whispers. They are proactive, not reactive. Salm 121:4 declares, indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. That same unwavering vigilance surrounds you. It's why you've survived ambushes you never even saw coming. It's why betrayal revealed itself just in time. It's why curses spoken in private couldn't take root. Your guardian doesn't wait for the dagger to strike. They disrupt the intention. And the most chilling truth? The moment someone considers targeting you, they already know. They feel it in their chest. That pressure, that invisible weight, that whisper in the back of their mind telling them, walk away now. But ego overrides warning, and for those who ignore it, they learn the hard way. Suddenly, they lose peace. Their plans unravel. Their name starts to decay, in the same way they tried to distort yours. Romans 12:19 reminds us, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Oh, do you recall how Whitney Houston carried a divine aura even in her silence? Or how Kobe Bryant, quiet and focused, struck fear on the court without saying a word? That's what spiritual power looks like. It's not always loud. It's composed. It's strategic. It's dangerous. The ones who misunderstood your peace for passivity didn't know that your silence was actually divine thunder held back. Your stillness was restraint, not absence of force. So the next time someone crosses your path with bad intentions, don't worry. You don't have to lift a finger. Don't rush to explain. Don't beg to be understood. The system assigned to you is already activated. The force backing you doesn't need to be summoned. It's always on. You are surrounded by divine intelligence that scans energy before you feel it, that blocks curses before you hear them, that reroutes destruction before it touches your timeline. Isaiah 41:10 gives you this firm assurance. Do not fear. For I am with you, do not be dismayed. For I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That hand has never failed you. It has never dropped what it was assigned to hold. So walk boldly. Live peacefully, and don't let their nervous glances shake your confidence. What they're reacting to isn't just you. It's the holy fire standing behind you, the force watching from beyond, the storm in silence. Because when they try to touch you, they're not just crossing a line. They're activating judgment. They're playing with fire they can't see. And the most terrifying part for them, they never know which moment will be the one where heaven says, "Enough. Low." You've entered rooms that trembled without a sound, where conversations paused and eyes flicked toward you, not out of admiration, but because of the presence you carry. It wasn't your outfit. It wasn't your posture. It was what walks with you. Chosen one. There's a weight to your spirit that unsettles anything out of alignment. Have you ever noticed the shift? That strange silence when you arrive. That awkward energy that follows you like a question no one dares ask. That's not ego. That's your atmosphere announcing you. You don't just walk in, you shift the entire field. Let them study you. Let them obsessively watch your posts. Decode your silence. Try to predict your next move. Because while they think they're clever, your guardian already clocked their intentions 3 steps before they even formed a thought. Their spirit was scanned, tagged, and filed under "Do Not Touch." That's why things around them begin to sour the moment they think wrong about you. That's why even their flattery backfires. The moment they whisper your name with dirty energy, their own life starts to vibrate with discomfort. Proverbs 26:27 warns them already. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Hide. This is what it looks like when protection becomes proactive. When your spiritual defense doesn't just react, it regulates. You don't just have a guardian who shields you from harm. You walk with one who clears the air before it gets contaminated. You operate in pre-cleared airspace, which means any darkness trying to linger too close is ejected by force before it reaches your field. This is divine security at its highest level. It's why their curses die before they leave their lips. It's why they get exhausted trying to disturb your peace. They're not tired from their life. They're tired from hitting a force field they can't even see. Let's make it plain. Some people wonder why their life starts unraveling after they harmlessly disrespected you. Why they get drained just thinking about you. Why the gossip they started suddenly comes back to them in twisted form. It's because your guardian doesn't entertain pettiness. They enforce law, not emotions. The realm you walk in has rules. And one of those rules is no trespassing on chosen territory. You are marked not for harm, but for holiness. And the moment someone tries to reduce you to a petty narrative, they activate a courtroom where their sentence has already been written. Take the story of Chadwick Boseman. While he suffered in silence, people judged his appearance, mocked his weight loss, called him names. But behind the scenes, he was carrying a divine assignment. His guardian didn't reveal his battle to the world. It simply ensured he finished strong. Or consider Malcolm X, whose name was often dragged through media storms. But behind that fire was divine intelligence, shielding his mission until the very end. When people play with chosen names, they don't realize they're tampering with timelines pre-approved by heaven. So while they laugh behind your back, while they throw your name around in dark group chats, while they strategize using weak, recycled tactics, something begins to shift. Their sleep becomes restless, their emotions become scrambled, their clarity dissolves. This is not psychological guilt. This is spiritual alert. The siren has sounded in the unseen. Psalm 105:15 makes it clear, "Do not touch my anointed ones, do my prophets no harm." And here's what most will never understand. Your guardian only warns once. They speak in energy, not words. If that warning is ignored, the next response is impact, not theatrical, not noisy, just precise, surgical, and undeniable. That's the language your protector speaks. And you, chosen one, are fluent in that language, even if you don't always realize it. Your life emits a frequency that exposes intentions before people speak. It's why you can sense fake love from across the room, why some people can't look you in the eye, why betrayal never really surprises you. It only confirms what your spirit already knew. Romans 8:37 declares. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. You don't just win, you pre-victory every battle through divine positioning. And you remember that moment, the darkness, the silence, the pressure that almost broke you, the one that made you wonder if this was the end. But what your enemies didn't know was that silence is not defeat for a chosen one. Silence is sacred territory. It's a holding chamber for divine power. It's where the force that walks with you gathers strength. What they mistook for your collapse was your cocoon. What they assumed was your expiration date was really your initiation into deeper protection. And as 2 Kings 6:16 reminds us, those who are with us are more than those who are with them. End of chapter. So what do you carry? You carry a protector who doesn't whisper warnings, they announce verdicts. Who doesn't wait for harm, they neutralize threats. Who doesn't flinch when darkness prowls, they chase it out before it gets comfortable. You are not walking alone. You are walking with a spiritual intelligence that translates every threat into courtroom evidence. And once judgment is spoken in the spirit, it manifests in the natural. This is the reality of being chosen. Your life is evidence. Your peace is defended. And your assignment is sealed. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to argue. You just need to keep walking. Because what protects you isn't passive. It's prophetic. It doesn't guard feelings. It guards destiny. And those who refuse to honor that will meet the consequence, not because you said so, but because heaven already did. Chosen one. The night never stood a chance, not with you in it. When darkness whispered your name like a predator testing its prey, your guardian didn't respond with noise or spectacle. They didn't post it. They didn't need an audience. They roared with a power too ancient for cameras, too sacred for stage lights. The world thought you went quiet, but heaven knew better. You weren't silent. You were being reinforced. You were surrounded, fortified, upgraded in secret. Remember that night when your tears soaked the pillow and your soul screamed in a language no human could understand? You didn't have to say a word. Your pain had a sound in the spirit realm, and your guardian heard it loud and clear. They were already standing over you, not offering sympathy, but preparing for war. You didn't see it because grief had swallowed your vision. But just because you couldn't see the fight didn't mean the fight wasn't happening behind the veil. They were blocking demonic darts, reversing curses, short-circuiting spells, and disorienting every enemy who dared try you while you were vulnerable. You were buried in the dark, chosen one, but someone else was moving in those same shadows with surgical precision, annihilating anything that tried to touch your destiny. Can you grasp that? You thought you were drowning, but in reality, someone was already drying the waters behind your back while you mourned the loss of love, purpose, peace, They were working overtime to protect what God planted in you. Psalm 34:7 says, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." That wasn't poetic metaphor. That was your midnight reality. Let me break it down plainly. You weren't losing. You were being covered. Every time your name left someone's mouth coated in venom, their room got visited. Not by karma, not by coincidence, but by divine order. The protection over you doesn't take vacations. It doesn't stall because you're sad. In fact, your heartbreak only amplifies your defense. Your vulnerability triggers divine reinforcement. Why? Because your purpose is bigger than your feelings. You are not a random soul floating through life. You're a strategic placement in God's end-time agenda. Look at the lives of real-world giants who've admitted they nearly lost it all. Beyoncé once shared that during one of her darkest moments, all she could do was pray, and she felt peace flood her body when she should have fallen apart. Or look at Denzel Washington, who's spoken openly about spiritual attacks that came right before major breakthroughs. Those who carry divine assignments always endure unusual battles, and they survive not by might, but by the force behind them. Zechariah 4:6 reminds us, "Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord Almighty." Your pain didn't disqualify you. It fueled your covering. Your silence didn't weaken you. It became a spiritual beacon. When your spirit had no words left, your stillness screamed louder than a sermon. And your guardian, they moved like lightning. Not the kind that makes noise. The kind that rearranges entire landscapes in one strike. You didn't see them, but you felt the shift. One day, you just knew something had changed. The weight was lighter. The anxiety wasn't choking you anymore. The dread stopped knocking at 2 a.m. That moment, that was your guardian clearing the room, sweeping the field, disarming every spiritual weapon forged against you. Isaiah 59:19 says, "When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him." That standard was lifted over your life, not in public, not with applause, but in silence, because results speak louder than rescue. And what you received wasn't just rescue, it was victory. You're still standing. Your calling is still intact. Your light still glows. And your enemies, they're baffled. They studied your fall, planned for your destruction, waited for your breakdown, and yet, somehow, you keep rising. That confuses them. That torments them. And here's the twist that heaven wrote into your story. When they came for you, they weren't sealing your downfall. They were writing their own collapse. Every person who mocked you, everyone who cast shade, spoke curses, launched spiritual darts in private. They didn't realize who you are. You're not just a person. You're a divine investment. You are a soul under contract, a mission sealed in holy ink. And that means any attack launched against you becomes a transaction heaven must settle. Psalm 91:10-11 declares, "No harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Let that sink in. They weren't just speaking against you, they were speaking against the hand of God. They weren't just plotting sabotage, they were trespassing on consecrated ground. And that has consequences, not just cosmic discomfort, but legal repercussions in the spiritual realm. What's backed by heaven comes with weight, and that weight crushes anything misaligned with your purpose. Take the story of Joseph. His brothers threw him in a pit, thinking they were ending his destiny. But every betrayal led him closer to the palace. And when they came back starving, he was the one feeding them. Or think of Princess Diana, ridiculed and isolated, yet globally beloved and spiritually covered. She carried a presence that outlived the scandal. Chosen ones never die in the pit, they get crowned after it. See, chosen one. The moment your soul entered this realm, it was encrypted, encoded with divine markings that can't be replicated, decoded, or erased. You weren't just born, you were deployed. You weren't simply given life, you were sealed with a divine stamp of spiritual authority before you ever had words to defend yourself. That seal wasn't ornamental, it was legal, and because of it, anyone who comes near you with dark intentions triggers a spiritual alarm they cannot silence. They think they're attacking a person, but in reality, they're trespassing on a territory owned and protected by the Most High. Have you ever wondered why you didn't need to fight back when people lied on your name? Why you felt no urge to expose them or run a public defense campaign? It's because you didn't have to. You didn't need to post receipts or shout to be believed. You didn't need to engage in the mud. Why? Because the very act of speaking against you filed a spiritual lawsuit in the courts of heaven, and your guardian doesn't lose cases. Psalm 35:1 says, "Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me, fight against those who fight against me." And that's exactly what happened. Court was in session, judgments were rendered, and justice was served silently, but decisively. Some people found this out the hard way. They watched their carefully crafted plots fall apart before they even got started. Their allies, once loud with slander, suddenly turned silent or disappeared altogether. Their influence, once flowing easily, dried up like a drought-stricken riverbed. And the worst part, they never understood why. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was consequence. They touched what was sacred. And when someone touches the sacred without reverence, they don't just get exposed, they get dismantled. You, chosen one, are holy ground. And the moment they stepped on it with muddy feet, their own foundation began to shake. And here's the nuance most miss. Your guardian doesn't move to embarrass people. They don't operate out of petty vengeance. They move to enforce divine law. The Spirit of God doesn't need to humiliate. Truth handles that on its own. That's why there are people who can't even look you in the eye anymore. You didn't say a word. You didn't gloat. You didn't retaliate. But their own soul remembers what happened when they mishandled you. Proverbs 24:17, -18 cautions. Do not gloat when your enemy falls, when they stumble. Do not let your heart rejoice, or the Lord will see and disapprove. That's not a warning for you. It's a reminder that your silence is not weakness. It's reverence for the justice that speaks louder than retaliation ever could. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed the disappearances, the sudden shifts, the people who once boasted about knowing you, only to pretend now like you never existed? They didn't fade away because of time. They vanished because of judgment. They tampered with something they weren't built to carry. They mocked what heaven had chosen. And when your guardian stepped in, they didn't just block the attack, they collapsed entire systems. That's why some of your former enemies didn't just lose favor, they lost access. They lost opportunities that were once aligned with their future, because they tried to reroute yours. It's a spiritual law. You cannot steal from a chosen one and expect prosperity. You cannot curse what God has blessed and expect peace. Ask Haman in the book of Esther. He built a gallows for Mordecai, God's chosen, and ended up hanging on it himself. Ask Pharaoh, who enslaved God's people and drowned in the waters he tried to use against them. These aren't just stories, they're patterns. They're spiritual algorithms written into eternity. Psalm 105:14-15 says it plain. He allowed no one to oppress them. For their sake he rebuked kings. Do not touch my anointed ones. Do my prophets no harm. Ness. Let's talk real life. Consider Meghan Markle. The world tried to destroy her reputation, twist her words, weaponize media against her peace, and yet she still stands, dignified, unbothered, covered. Or consider Naomi Osaka, whose mental health became the subject of ridicule, but instead of crumbling, she disappeared, healed, and re-emerged stronger. That's what divine insulation looks like. Even when the world tries to crack you open, they can't penetrate your seal. You are spiritually firewalled. Your life is a protected zone. And when someone crosses the boundary, not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, spiritually, they trigger consequences designed not by your hand, but by the hands of heaven. This isn't revenge. This is alignment. It's balance. It's the law of divine cause and effect. Galatians 6-7 warns them clearly. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows, and some of them sowed disrespect into sacred ground. So understand this. Your protection doesn't just cancel the attack, it cancels the attacker's trajectory. It reroutes their timeline. The moment they aimed spiritual arrows at your heart, they shot holes in their own future. And no, you didn't wish this on them. You didn't pray for their downfall. You simply stayed aligned, and your guardian, operating under divine assignment, handled the rest. That's the gravity of being chosen. You don't operate under normal laws. You are under heavenly jurisdiction. And while others may get away with missteps, anyone who tries to harm you walks into a courtroom where your name is already written in victory. So the next time someone moves against you, don't panic. Don't retaliate. Just remember, they're not coming against you. They're clashing with your covering. And your covering never misses. People often find themselves confused, wondering why the doors that once opened now slam shut. Why opportunities seem to evaporate before they can grasp them. Why their days feel haunted by restlessness, anxiety, and spiritual fog. They don't realize they violated a spiritual boundary they were never qualified to cross. Chosen one. They stepped onto consecrated ground, thinking it was common soil. They mistook your anointing for accessibility. They thought your divine alignment was just another thing to manipulate, another energy to siphon. But there are laws in the spirit realm that don't bend to ignorance, and your guardian made sure they learned that lesson. They didn't get a polite warning. They got a full spiritual correction. When they casually spoke your name with contaminated intentions, they triggered consequences they couldn't control. When they played with your heart as if it was disposable. When they mocked your quiet strength like it was fragility. They weren't just hurting you, they were desecrating holy ground. And now, their lives are unraveling. Quietly, not with thunder, not with drama, but in a way that feels like sand slipping through their fingers, piece by piece, structure by structure. Their favor is drying up. Why? Because the universe has a memory, and your guardian has a long record of every move. Deuteronomy 32:35 says, "It is mine to avenge. I will repay. In due time their foot will slip. Their day of disaster is near, and their doom rushes upon them." That day didn't need your involvement. It didn't need your retaliation. All it needed was your stillness and heaven's timing. Your guardian doesn't post announcements. They don't explain. They execute. Their movement is silent but seismic. You won't hear them coming. But your enemies will feel the shift in their sleep, in their money, in their health, in their relationships. They won't be able to articulate it, but something in them will break, and you'll see it. You'll sense it. Have you noticed how some people start avoiding you after trying to destroy you? How their once bold energy collapses into silence, how their laughter turns hollow, and their connection to you suddenly disappears. That's not coincidence. That's impact. The kind of impact that doesn't come from you striking back, but from you staying aligned. You didn't have to clap back. You didn't have to lower your frequency. You simply stood in truth, and truth called for backup. Romans 12. 9 reminds us again. Do not take revenge. Leave room for God's wrath. And while you were making room, your guardian was making moves. Think of how Will Smith once said, "Your life will become more peaceful when you stop trying to understand why people betrayed you." Why? Because in that surrender, you make space for divine protection to manifest. Or look at Simone Biles, who withdrew from the Olympics to protect her mental and spiritual health, and in doing so, activated a global wave of respect and spiritual shielding she didn't even ask for. What seems like withdrawal to the world is often a power move in the heavens. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the betrayal hit you from nowhere? Like 1 minute everything was fine, and the next you were under attack? What you didn't realize is that the attack never reached you in full. What you felt was the residue. What you experienced was the aftershock, because your guardian intercepted it before it landed. Before the manipulation could plant doubt, before the text message could poison your peace, before that fake friend could wrap themselves too tightly around your heart, your defender moved early. Proverbs 4, 3 advises. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. But sometimes, when you're too hurt to guard it, God assigns someone who will. Your protector doesn't just stop battles, they stop setups. Before the conversation turned into gossip, before the phone call led to confusion, before the spiritual leech latched onto your dreams, they dismantled the energy. They diffused the attack. They deleted the invitation to chaos that you never meant to send. That's why your spirit felt off one day, and peace returned the next, because the threat had been neutralized. That's not paranoia. That's precision. Let's not forget real-world examples. Consider how Taylor Swift's career could have crumbled after being publicly humiliated early on, but instead, she rose. She rebuilt. She reclaimed. Because something was working beyond PR. Something was spiritually correcting what the world misunderstood. Or Chadwick Boseman, who carried illness in secret while carrying a nation on his back. No enemy, no attack. No curse could stop his purpose because heaven was active. Behind every silent season is a guardian with orders to protect legacy. Isaiah 54:17 says it with finality, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." This isn't theory, it's testimony. You've lived it, and your enemies are living proof. They came thinking they were dealing with flesh, with a person they could control. What they touched instead was fire, holy fire, contractual fire, and fire, when provoked, doesn't negotiate, it consumes. So while you may feel confused about what happened behind the scenes, don't question your peace. Trust it. You were never exposed to the full weight of the attack because your guardian took the hit. Your role: stay in alignment, stay in purpose. Keep your frequency clean, because as long as you walk with heaven's seal, any hand raised against you will be handled quietly, completely, irreversibly. You don't have to swing to win. You don't have to speak to be heard. You don't have to defend what God has already defended. You just have to stand. Because the moment they touched you with wicked intention, they stopped touching you and started clashing with a courtroom of angels. And that courtroom never loses. Chosen one. There are battles you'll never hear about. And threats you'll never feel, not because they weren't real, but because someone stopped them before they ever reached you. Think back. That sudden hesitation that came out of nowhere. That strange gut feeling when everything on the surface seemed fine. That moment you missed the train only to avoid chaos. That job you thought you wanted, but didn't get, only for the company to implode a month later. That was no accident. That was divine interception. Your guardian doesn't wait until the storm is on your doorstep. They read the wind patterns. They sense the atmosphere shifting before the enemy even finalizes the blueprint. They don't wait for trouble to knock. They cut it off at the gate. Psalm 121:7 says, "The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life." That's not poetry. That's legal protection. That's the spiritual equivalent of a firewall you never see but can't live without. Let's be real. There were moments you were too tired to pray, too numb to care, too disoriented to discern, and still grace showed up. Still, something stepped in before disaster formed. That's not paranoia. That's precision. Your covering is not emotional. It's tactical. It works while you sleep. It fights while you process. It moves while you're distracted. And it never needs a round of applause to do its job. It's the kind of protection that senses sabotage before it becomes strategy. Your guardian functions in frequencies far beyond human comprehension. They pick up spiritual static your conscious mind can't even detect. They hear the lies buried in compliments. They feel the dagger hiding in a smile. They decode the motive inside the opportunity that looked like a blessing. You've had moments when you trusted the wrong people, right? When you said yes to something that made sense, but something inside you pulled back. That wasn't just anxiety. That was your spiritual defense system kicking in. And they don't wait for your permission to move. They don't ask you for confirmation. Once your assignment is activated, they go to war on your behalf. Isaiah, Olesen, Isman, promises. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Your guardian doesn't need to check in, they check everything around you. Every meeting where your name came up in dishonor, every plan whispered behind closed doors, every unseen hand that tried to pull you down, all handled quietly, efficiently, completely. You'll never know how many arrows were stopped mid-flight, how many spells fizzled before they formed, how many people tripped over the very trap they laid for you. Because your guardian doesn't collect trophies, they erase evidence. They leave no mark but peace, no trail but deliverance, no sound but silence. That silence, that's the proof. The absence of chaos is the presence of protection. Have you ever paused and asked yourself, why did I suddenly lose interest in that connection? Why did my spirit recoil when nothing seemed visibly wrong? Why did that perfect opportunity suddenly feel off? And then, days or weeks later, you find out the truth, that someone was scheming, that they were speaking behind your back, that what looked like a blessing was really bait. That wasn't your intuition, that was intervention. That was someone standing between you and spiritual assassination. Look at the life of someone like Michael Jordan. Many remember the championships, but few realize the amount of sabotage, politics, and jealousy he had to navigate. Yet somehow, he always landed upright, not by charm, not by luck, but by covering. Or think about Angelina Jolie, whose humanitarian efforts made her a global target, but she moves with the type of discernment and presence that speaks of a higher protection. And let's not forget someone like Nelson Mandela, whose very existence threatened systems of oppression, yet even in isolation, something divine preserved his mission. Here's the part your enemies never understood. You weren't caught off guard, they were, because your spirit never sleeps alone. Your guardian had already done the background check, already read the vibration of the room, already intercepted the energy before it got close enough to stain your frequency. Proverbs 2:11 affirms this. Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you. You are not defenseless. You are surveilled by sovereignty. That's why some people dislike you without ever having a real reason, why they feel unsettled in your presence. It's not your tone. It's not your appearance. It's the force that walks with you, the same force that makes their unhealed shadows panic. Your light doesn't just shine, it exposes. Your presence doesn't just inspire, it disturbs dysfunction. You're not being attacked because you're weak. You're being defended because your destiny is too expensive to leave unguarded. And every time a new threat begins to form, your guardian doesn't flinch. They don't react. They reposition. They outmaneuver. They begin the takedown sequence before you even register danger. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual warfare, conducted without your knowledge, on your behalf, in real time. Psalm 91, 11 declares, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." That command still stands. It hasn't expired. You didn't miss your protection window. You are still covered, still surrounded, still assigned to victory. So when the next strange hesitation shows up, trust it. When the next door closes unexplainably, thank it. That delay may be the very interception that saved your future. You don't see the fire being extinguished, but you breathe the clean air afterward. You don't hear the arrows being caught, but you feel the peace that follows. That's what divine interception looks like. And chosen one, the reason you're still here, still sane, still rising, is because someone has been blocking what you never even knew was coming. You're not just chosen, you're shielded, covered, and escorted by a force that doesn't ask for credit, only obedience to the assignment. And they're not done yet. Ever noticed how certain people, those who were once loud, confident, always ready with shade, suddenly go silent after crossing you? One day, they had all the smoke. The next, they disappear like mist. That's not just guilt. Chosen one. That's not just embarrassment. That's spiritual aftermath. Because when your name is tied to heaven's blueprint, even hell knows, this one is off limits. They didn't just come for you, they triggered a spiritual response that rewrote their piece. You were never designed to fit in. You weren't molded for popularity. You were deployed on assignment. Your existence was stamped with divine purpose before you took your first breath. And when heaven sends someone on assignment, hell studies the deployment. Not because it has the authority to stop you, but because it fears what walks with you. Let's be clear. Demons don't tremble at your face. They tremble at the force behind your footsteps. They fear your guardian. That guardian, the one who doesn't ask for permission before moving, the one who doesn't tolerate spiritual trespass, the one whose very presence is a sentence to anything misaligned with your destiny. You didn't earn this covering through performance or good behavior. You came with it. It was embedded in your energy, etched into your soul. The contract was sealed before you could crawl. It's why even spirits that don't speak your language still recognize the warning, this one is untouchable. End footnote. There have been dark rooms where your name was spoken, rituals, gossip sessions, private attacks. And do you know what happens when your name is released with bad intent? The energy in the room shifts, the air grows thick. The ones planning your downfall start to feel it, the unease, the weight. That's not superstition, that's intervention. Psalm 18:17 says, "He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from my foes, who were too strong for me." Your guardian sends a signal that says, "Back away." Now, oh, even demons know the drill. Some of them don't even want to accidentally cross your aura, because the last time they did it didn't end well. You've already been tested in silence, in secret, behind your back. And each time, the ruling from heaven was immediate. Touch not this one, or pay the price. That's why some people distance themselves from you, not because they respect you, but because their spirit remembers what happened the last time they underestimated you. You didn't even see the attacks. You didn't feel the full impact. Why? Because they never reached you. They were intercepted. Your guardian doesn't wait to react. They neutralize threats before impact. They don't just defend you here on earth. They walk into hell's boardrooms and flip tables. The very councils formed to plot your fall have been dismantled by forces they never believed were real. And your enemies? They thought they were just messing with a person. What they didn't realize was that they were stepping into a divine perimeter wrapped in fire. Their relationships start falling apart. Their finances slip. Their mind becomes a maze of confusion, not because you cursed them, but because they activated something. Psalm 109:2-3 captures it well. "For wicked and deceitful mouths are opened against me, speaking against me with lying tongues. They encircle me with words of hate and attack me without cause." And what follows those attacks is not your revenge, it's divine recompense. Let's talk examples. Remember Whitney Houston? Her name was slandered, but behind the scenes, she was always covered. Or consider Meghan Markle, constantly targeted, yet still protected, still thriving. Because heaven covers assignments, not opinions. Even someone like Serena Williams, whose greatness has been repeatedly challenged, continues to rise, not just because of skill, but because of the force behind her presence. When you're chosen, you don't compete. You command even in silence. So why do you walk in peace? Chosen one, not because you're naive, not because you're unaware of the battles around you. You walk in peace because you know who stands behind you. You don't just carry favor, you carry authority backed by eternity. Your guardian doesn't need to raise their voice, because your stillness already speaks. Your silence already declares, "Try it and watch what happens." And you don't need to get involved in the drama. You don't need to go on social media rants or defend your name in circles that were never meant to hold your spirit. Why? Because drama can't win when divine retribution is already on assignment. Let them gossip. Let them speculate. Let them quietly suffer the consequences they brought upon themselves. While they sink in confusion, you will rise in clarity, not because you fought harder, but because you never had to fight alone. Isaiah 54, 15-17 assures you, "If anyone does attack you, it will not be my doing. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. No weapon forged against you will prevail." This is not revenge. This is divine law. You are not just protected. You are reinforced by glory. You walk with a signature that hell cannot counterfeit. Let's settle this once and for all. Chosen one, what protects you isn't just loyalty, it is law. You are not kept safe because someone likes you, or because you've earned some spiritual favoritism. No. What shields you is legally bound in the spirit realm, etched in divine legislation long before Earth had names for days, emotions, or languages. This isn't about sentiment. This isn't about how good you've been. This isn't even about loyalty. This is about law, spiritual law, cosmic law, law that cannot be bargained with or overridden, law that predates the stars and governs the movement of eternity. Before time itself learned to speak, before angels had titles, before the galaxies aligned the heavens, drafted an order, that order was sealed with divine ink. And it read, "This one must complete the mission. This one cannot be stopped. This soul is necessary." That's why your guardian doesn't hesitate. They don't need your input to act. They don't wait for you to figure it out or pray the perfect prayer. Because they weren't convinced to help you, they were commissioned. They weren't persuaded, they were assigned. Their role in your story isn't optional. It's encoded. Have you ever sensed protection when you didn't even ask for it? Ever felt your heart drop right before saying yes to something and then backed out without knowing why? That wasn't instinct alone. That was interception. That was spiritual defense moving ahead of your awareness. Psalm 139:16 affirms this cosmic blueprint. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And that includes protection clauses. That includes divine bodyguards. Your guardian doesn't have to love your journey to defend it. They don't operate on emotional highs or lows. They don't cheer you on when you're confident and disappear when you're doubting. They are wired into your assignment. Their entire spiritual architecture is built to respond to threats that come anywhere near your path. They don't protect you because you're flawless. They protect you because your existence is legally sacred. And here's a truth most people miss. Your guardian doesn't protect you for you. They protect you for the integrity of divine law itself. If your destiny is disrupted, the entire alignment of what you were sent to influence collapses, and that is unacceptable in heaven's court. Humans confuse loyalty with mood. They love you until it gets difficult. They support you until your growth makes them uncomfortable. But the spirit realm doesn't function on emotion. Your protection isn't on a timer. It doesn't say, "I'm tired today." It doesn't back out because you're struggling with self-worth. You might feel unworthy, but your destiny never stopped being worthy. Hebrews 13:5 reminds you of this eternal promise, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." End quote. You've had days where you felt broken, haven't you? Where you thought, why would anything spiritual still care about me when I can barely care for myself? But even on your worst day, when your faith was cracked, your hope bruised, your spirit dim, your guardian still moved. They still stood watch. Because your pain doesn't override your purpose. Your confusion doesn't cancel your covering. This is not a favor, it's a function. It's eternal alignment, and spiritual principles cannot be broken without consequence. Consider the story of David. He fell, stumbled, and made grave mistakes, but he was still covered, still called, still crowned. Or take a modern-day figure like Demi Lovato, plunged into darkness, spiraling in public, yet covered through it all. She didn't earn redemption through perfection. Her survival was part of an unbreakable design. Or Malala Yousafzai, who was shot simply for being who she was meant to be and still lived to lead. Her protection wasn't because of public outcry. It was because divine order wouldn't allow her to die before her purpose was fulfilled. That's your reality too. Chosen one. No matter how many times you question your worth, heaven never questions your assignment. Your guardian's allegiance is not to your emotions, it's to your existence. That's why even when you've turned your back, your covering never did. Even when you couldn't hear God, your spirit was still surrounded by divine surveillance. John 10:28 says it with power. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. Not depression, not fear, not betrayal, not failure. Nothing gets to snatch you from the grip of your purpose, not because you hold on so tightly, but because you're being held. And this is why you are unstoppable. This is why what tried to take you out failed, quietly and consistently, because no matter how far you fall, how confused you get, how dark the season becomes, your guardian shows up again and again and again, not because they feel sorry for you, not because you prayed hard enough, but because the Lord demands it. Chosen one. Let's make something crystal clear once and for all. The protection over your life isn't based on emotions, relationships, or popularity. It's not rooted in anyone's opinion of your worth. What surrounds you is not loyalty, it's law. Law that was written before time had names. Law that cannot be reversed, edited, negotiated, or fetut. When heaven assigns protection, hell has no override authority. There is no debate. There is no loophole. There is no if or unless clause. Every time someone moves toward you with malice in their heart, they don't just make a poor choice, they commit a spiritual crime. And your guardian? They are not a bystander. They are the enforcer. You see, your guardian isn't acting out of pettiness. They're not seeking revenge for the sake of drama. No. They respond because your mission is sacred, and anything that interferes with your path interferes with the balance of the divine plan. And heaven does not play about balance. Have you noticed it? The shift? How people are getting exposed around you without you lifting a single finger. How lies crumble. How manipulation these quietly. How judgment falls even when you're silent. That's not coincidence. That's order. That's what happens when the law is enforced. You didn't have to cry out. You didn't need to post proof. You didn't even need to speak. Your protection has been activated this whole time, stamped, signed, and sealed. It's been operating under your tears, beneath your heartbreak, and right through your confusion. Even when you felt forgotten, you were surrounded. Even when you questioned God, God never questioned your assignment. Psalm 46:1 says, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. That ever-present help is why you're still standing. Here's a truth that may unsettle those who came for you. Your enemies haven't been getting away with anything. They've been accumulating charges, infractions, violations, and one by one, they're being cashed in, slowly, quietly, precisely, not because you made them pay, but because interfering with your calling is illegal in the courts of heaven. When they ask why their life is unraveling, why doors are closing, why peace has vanished, it won't be you who answers. It'll be the aftermath. The silence will speak for you. The consequences will do the talking. You've probably wondered, why didn't they leave? Why did they stick around when others walked away? Let me make it plain. Because you are not just an assignment, you are the mission. Your guardian wasn't hired for a season. They weren't loaned to your life for a moment of crisis. They were born into your journey. They don't juggle their energy between you and a dozen other souls. You are their only focus. Their eyes don't wander. Their loyalty doesn't drift. Their devotion doesn't expire. You're not a backup plan. You are the plan. And you need to understand how serious that is. You were born into a world tilted against your light. But your guardian, they entered this realm with you, synchronized with your soul, handpicked to walk beside you as both shadow and sword. They don't just watch over you, They read you. They memorize your energy the way a watchman studies seismic shifts in the earth. The moment your vibration drops, they move. The moment someone steps into your orbit with poisonous intent, they shift the atmosphere. No spectacle, no noisy, just war in silence. Isaiah 41:10 gives you this promise. So do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And sometimes, that help shows up as a guardian who burns bridges you didn't realize were traps, who places themselves between you and family, friends, even lovers if they threaten your light. Because your safety isn't optional, it's ordained. They were there when you bled and they didn't leave. They were there when your heart shattered and they stayed. They stood still while you loved people who couldn't even recognize your value, and yet they never walked away. Why? Not because they liked your choices, but because their covenant isn't based on your behavior. It's based on cosmic truth. You aren't just someone to be watched. You are someone to be kept, protected at all costs, guarded with honor. And if keeping you safe means burning down what no longer serves you, they'll light the match without hesitation. You've mistaken their silence for absence. But in reality, they've been busy, blocking betrayals before they formed, disarming spiritual traps before they tightened, turning arrows mid-air, creating detours you didn't even know saved your life. You have no idea how many breakdowns were prevented, how many fake alliances were exposed, how many spiritual bullets never touched your back because someone chose to make you their priority. Their reward isn't your thank you, it's your victory. Their fulfillment isn't your applause, it's your completion. They are not attached to your comfort, they are attached to your calling. That's why when pressure rises, they don't retreat. When warfare increases, they lean in. When the cost goes up, they pay it without flinching. Because to them, you are worth it. Every sleepless moment, every unspoken battle, every sacrifice made in the shadows. This isn't convenient companionship. This is sacred stewardship. They were placed on your timeline not to make you feel good, but to get you through it. They are the foundation under your survival, the one God embedded beneath your rise. Even as you ascend, even as you step into levels no one thought you'd reach, they're still there, still watching, still clearing the path, not as background characters, but as immovable pillars of divine enforcement. And now you know, you aren't a side note, you aren't a fluke, you aren't a temporary success story. You are the mission. You felt it, haven't you? The change in how people look at you, the hesitation in their voice, the sudden awkwardness, the way fake smiles don't land the same. They're not confused by you, they're intimidated by what's behind you. This isn't arrogance. This is revelation. They've glimpsed just enough to know they were wrong. They thought you were safe to play with, harmless, easy, quiet. But they didn't realize that even the high road has angels stationed with flaming swords at its edge. And now, even hell knows. Your name must be whispered with caution, because the next time someone moves against you, they won't just be fighting a person, they'll be stepping into a cosmic minefield. And no one walks away from that untouched. It's not just that you're protected, chosen one. It's that you are protected loudly in the spirit realm and silently on earth. You walk with invisible authority that screams in dimensions your enemies cannot access, while your physical presence remains calm, grounded, and unbothered. They don't understand what's happening. All they know is this: ever since they tried to cross you, everything has started to crumble. Their peace, gone. Their momentum, blocked. Their connections, withering. Their confidence, vanished. And your name? Still rising, still shining, still untouched by the chaos they tried to bring. You didn't even need to fight back. You didn't need to explain, expose, or respond. Because while they plotted in the natural, your guardian struck in the supernatural at levels they can't even name, let alone reach. That's why they're nervous now. Not because they fear you as a person, but because they now feel the price of underestimating what walks with you. They thought you were unarmed. They didn't sense the presence of the army stationed behind your stillness. They didn't recognize the weight of your guardian's shadow until it was already sitting on their chest, suffocating their intentions. Now they flinch when your name is mentioned, not out of shame, not out of conviction, but because their spirit remembers the hit. The dismantling didn't start in their life, it started in their soul. Spirit first. Then the mind unraveled, then the rest fell like dominoes. What they mistook as a simple confrontation turned out to be a collision with divine justice. Psalm 91:7 makes this clear. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. The storm didn't miss you by accident. It was intercepted by design. This is what happens when people treat chosen energy like it's casual, when they confuse divine silence for divine absence, when they assume no response means no protection. They thought there would be no consequences. They thought they'd get away with it. But now, they're drowning in the very chaos they unleashed. Have you noticed it? They're looking over their shoulder. They're restless. Their relationships feel shaky. Their thoughts spiral. Their dreams disturb them. They're losing control, and they don't know how to stop the bleeding. Because what terrifies them most isn't your words, your posts, your strength, or your style. It's your silence, that you haven't said a thing, and yet their world is falling apart. It means something else is working behind the scenes. That's the part they didn't expect. That's the part they can't stop. Because chosen one, you were never the problem. You were the line, the boundary wrapped in flesh, the gate they mistook for a doorway, never realizing it was sealed in holy fire. Your energy has shifted. It's not just magnetic, it's consecrated, heavier, bolder, more sacred than ever. And now, when they come near you, their spirits recoil. They can't get too close without feeling like their masks are melting. It's not paranoia, it's revelation. They finally see you, not the image they mocked, not the version they underestimated, but the reality they were never prepared for. And even more, they see who's been guarding you all along. Now your presence is a mirror, everywhere you go. They're confronted by what they tried to do, and more importantly, what they failed to do. Every time they see you rise, they're reminded of their fall. Every time they see you shine, they're reminded of the darkness that couldn't consume you. That's why they keep their distance. That's why they can't speak your name without a tremble. And you just keep rising, keep glowing, keep walking in authority. Not because life has been easy, but because your light cannot be extinguished. They launched chaos in your direction and watched it return to them like a boomerang laced with justice. The energy they sent became their undoing. The lies they spread became their own entrapment. They don't understand how you keep surviving, how you keep elevating. But deep in their bones, they know it's not just you. It's the force behind you, the guardian assigned to you, the vow made in the eternal realms that said, this light will not be snuffed out. Now that the storm has cleared and truth is standing in plain sight, they finally understand. You were never alone. You were never unguarded. You were never left to fend for yourself. You didn't survive by chance. You were kept. Every threat that missed you, every betrayal that exposed itself, Every lie that bounced off your name without sticking it wasn't luck. It was because someone stood watch. Someone who doesn't post their miracles. Someone who doesn't ask for thanks. Someone who stood between you and destruction and declared, "Not this one." No. Romans 8:31 asks the question, if God is for us, who can be against us? The answer is already written in the aftermath. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them ask why their favor dried up while yours multiplied. Let them sit in the ruins of their own attempts because they came for flesh, would run into fire. And now, chosen one, you know the truth. You're not just walking with purpose, you're walking with divine covering. You're not just called, you're kept. You are a holy boundary, dressed in human skin, a line from heaven walking among men, and anyone who crosses it learns the hard way. This one is guarded. This one is protected. This one is off limits. Beloved, chosen one, if there's one truth that must anchor you as we close this journey, it's this: you were never forgotten. Even in the moments when you felt invisible, even when the silence was deafening, even when your prayers seemed to echo into nothing, you may have assumed God had gone quiet on you. But that silence wasn't neglect, it was containment, divine protection. You were being hidden while heaven secured your surroundings, your name, your energy, your destiny. It was too valuable to leave exposed. That sense of stillness was never rejection. It was the strategy of heaven preserving what was sacred. You didn't survive all this because you were lucky. You survived because you were guarded. While you wept in the dark, something ancient and undefeated stood watch. While you doubted your worth, the Spirit whispered truths your heart couldn't yet hold. You were never walking alone. You were flanked by forces that see what you carry. Even when you forget, your protection isn't circumstantial, it's legal. It doesn't change with your moods, your wins, or your setbacks. It's rooted in covenant, the kind of covenant that doesn't break under pressure, doesn't bend when you stumble, and doesn't withdraw when you question. So breathe. Let your soul release the weight it's been carrying. You are not defenseless. You are not overlooked. You are divinely surrounded. You've been through fire. Yes, but look at you. Not only are you still standing, you're standing taller. And the forces that fought for you aren't leaving. The one ready to put hands on anyone who tries you, still standing guard, still watching, still defending without being seen. Your name is still rising. Your light is still expanding. And no enemy can undo what heaven has stamped as permanent. As we close this chapter together, I want to thank you sincerely for walking with me through this revelation. Your time, your heart, your presence here mean more than words can express. If this message spoke to your spirit, awakened clarity, or gave you peace, I invite you to support the mission by donating through Super Thanks. Your contribution helps keep this message alive and expanding to those who need it most. But whether you choose to give or not, please hear me when I say you are deeply appreciated. Your presence alone is a blessing. So now I speak a word of blessing over you. May every weapon formed against you break before it reaches you. May every hidden plot be revealed and reversed. May your guardian remain ever present, ever vigilant, ever unshakable. May your feet never wander far from purpose. And may your soul feel peace that makes no sense to the world. You are not just chosen, you are kept. Not just walking, you are covered. Not just surviving, you are ascending. wrapped in a force greater than any threat that dares to rise. Stay steady, stay sacred, stay chosen.